Hello, I'm Gopar, and this is the third video on creating your own WSGI framework with Python. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Now, so on the last video, we ended up with what we have here. Now, before we continue, I'm gonna say what we're gonna do. So we're gonna add some objectives. So for this video, we're gonna add a request class. We're gonna do invalid content type handling, and we're also gonna handle 404. And as the plus side is we're gonna have something that we can actually run on a web server like Gunicorn. So I have some commands here to test that out in case you do install this command line tool, HTTP pi or whatever you pronounce it. I have no idea, but it's a Python tool. It's pretty handy. It's pretty easy to work with. So that's just the commands if you want to follow along. Otherwise, you can do it with curl, just translate it, and it should work. All right, so let's get started. And before we do that, we're going to do a couple of changes. So in the last video, I said this is going to be self.middleware. It should actually be an S middleware. So middleware is right here. And I think that is it. And also on the last video, I said that we might possibly pass the request object. And we are going to actually do that right here. So we are going to do that. All right, cool. Now that we have those two things out of the way, we are going to continue now from where we left off. So the first things first is that we're going to import a library that will help us with the HTTP status. And Python already has one called HTTP. And from that library, we're going to import HTTP status. Yeah, so that one contains all the statuses. As you can see, if I pull up the documentation right here, it says HTTP status OK is actually 200. So yeah, it's pretty handy. So yeah, if you always look up the documentation. If you see something you don't understand or you don't know, just look it up. But yeah, all right, cool. Enough of that. So we have that. Where are we going? Actually, let me do this into a single line, into multiple lines. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I guess black does not like that. All right, I'll let black do its thing. Well, actually, if I do that, yeah, if I add the comma, it'll do it. All right. Enough distractions. Where are we going? Oh yes. So first things first, we're going to create this request class. So we're going to go over here and we're going to do request definite. I'm actually zoom in a little bit, that way it might be easier for you guys. Self.environment. We're going to pass in the dictionary, and then from there we're going to continue with our for loop. So we're going to do for key value in environ dot item. So this gives us a pair of key and values, and then we're going to do set attribute self dot key dot replace. We're going to place dots with underscores, and I think that is it. Yes. So this environment, a dictionary, which is passed from the server, it's going to have some things like HTTP or WSGI dot data, something like that, and we want to translate those to WSGI underscore data like that. Of course, we can also do a dot lower. Can't even type a dot lower over here. So we can do dot replace, dot lower, and that will also lower everything. But for right now, that's something I'm not gonna do. You can do it, of course, if you want. It's up to you. This is just an example on how to create a web framework. So it's all up to you, man. You are the creator. You can do what you like. All right. So I think we have this enough for right now. So we have request. So this should work now. We pass in the environment, which is a dictionary, created, boom, bada boom, we have it. So now things like content type should work out of the box. All right, cool. One thing that we also need to take care of is that when someone sends a request, they might not always set the content type. So this might not exist in the dictionary when it's passed in. So this attribute won't be set. It will just be not accepted. It'll raise an error. So we have to take care of that. So what we do is, let's see, we wrap this with the params has attribute. Oops. Actually, I need to do this. If does not have attribute, or so if it doesn't have that, or it's not in the content types. I forgot to do this in the last video, but now we're gonna do it. So yeah, there you go. It either has to have a content type, and that content type has to be in the allowed types. Otherwise, raise an error, bada boom, and we're actually gonna enhance this error and make it better. So we're going to do HTTP status. Actually, this should be lowercase, but okay. Status.unsupported, unsupported media type, and we're going to do status equals int status and what else? Status dot phrase. There we go. So all these methods are in the HTTP status. If you look up the documentation, you can see like the example I showed earlier. Right, cool, but we have that. And also, of course, we gotta put in our response headers. So what do? We're gonna say content type. Content type is text HTML, because that's what we're responding to. Except, and then we're gonna do that join self.allowed content types. And now I'll explain what everything does in a second. Start response, status, and response headers. And then we return this. All right, booyah, what do we have? So if the status is invalid, if the content type is valid, we're gonna say, hey, this is unsupported media type. And then we're just gonna build up the more, so in order to understand here, we need to understand how headers look like when you make a request. So if you want, you can Google content or header request as an example, or look at your browser in the network tab and look at it. But essentially the way it is we show the status, which can be a 405, and then the phrase inside of it. And for the response header, we say, hey, so that's just for the status itself. But for the response header, we say, hey, the response that I'm sending is text HTML. And in the response header, we say, we accept the following types of contents. Oops, that is misspelled. Accept, there we go. We accept the following, and then we're just gonna make a list of the things that we accept. We're gonna tell that to the web server to respond to the user, and since we're not gonna return anything, we're just gonna leave it as an empty list. And yeah, that's how we handle that part. Pretty straightforward, hopefully, at least. Hopefully I explained it decently. Right, so for the middleware, we don't really do anything. Everything's fine for right now. We'll look at that later in the follow-up videos. So okay, what do we have? Route equals self.getRequest.pathinfo. That looks right. Self none. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing right here. So we can actually copy this and then just edit it as we go. So instead of HTTP status unsupported media found, since we're returning a 404, you can probably guess what we want. Yep, so that's right, not found. This should be the same. And this should be, actually, we don't need to send that because we did accept the content type. It just doesn't exist. So let's go ahead. We're going to say response equals text HTML, and then start response. That looks right. And then we just return nothing. So now we're responding with content type text HTML, but what if the request came in JSON XML? Ideally, you would respond with the same content type that was sent. So if you get a JSON API, this would be application/JSON, and we would format this response, or return some type of response that says, hey, invalid method name or something. But for right now, it's bare bones. So just keep that in mind. This is just something, a shortcut that I'm taking. Sue me, you know. I'll contact my lawyer, you contact yours. Let's duke it out, man. All right, let's go. So that looks right. Yeah, that takes care of the 404, I believe. I think that's everything. Let's go ahead and try it out. Yeah. So what did we say? We would do the request class, which we did. We will do invalid content type handling, which we did, and then we will handle 404. You know what? Yeah, we did all that. So let's go ahead and boot up a shell, and then we will go into, actually, what do we have? G-Unicorn, if I can type it out. Yeah. Tutorial, what is this, 3? App. Did I have app? Yes, I do have app. Okay, cool. So if I run this, we should be able to start the G-Unicorn without any much hesitation. Boom, self is not defined. All right, beautiful. Line 24. Ah, look at that. You guys didn't tell me about this, man. What's wrong with you guys? I trust you guys. Self, there we go. Well, that's embarrassing. That means I didn't do it on the other video. Well, live and learn, right? All right, so let's do clear, and then let's type it again. Routes. This is what I'm saying. We need a default dictionary. Boom. So this is how real life development works, man. All right, cool. Now we have one. So let's create another shell, and let's copy that request that we saw. So this should work. 8000. What does it -f do? I believe it does form. Sends it as a form type, form content type. But anyways, let's press enter. Internal server error. So what do we have? So as you can see in the server over here, it says name invalid and Cyron. So see, this is one of the bad things that I don't use any of the smart IDEs that y'all kids use nowadays. I'm so used to typing by hand that I don't use auto completion in Python, which has downsides and upsides. I usually do have a checker that just checks for silly things like this, but I don't have it configured for this project. But anyways, let's go ahead and restart this. Okay, so if I do this, oops, and then has attribute expected to types, got one. Oh, you see, man. So it has attribute content type should be content type. Yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I'm making a bunch of mistakes. I thought I did it right. All right, hopefully after this, if not, I might have to redo the video. Look at that. So we sent a content type of this of a form type, so don't worry if you don't understand, but this is just a different form type than the ones that we have defined. So remember, we only have defined application, JSON, and text HTML. And here we sent content type of this, so it responded, hey, I don't know how to do this. You're on your own, boss. So all right, cool, beautiful. So what happens if I try something else? Like if I try and a route that doesn't exist, like hello, like over there, like we have listed. So I'm saying, hey, HTTP, use this tool, be verbose, use the get method, hit this endpoint, and make it a JSON request. So let's go ahead and see. Boom. Unsupported media type. So again, the same thing. Actually, wait, hold on. Application JSON. That should work. Wait. All right. Let's press hello. Oh, silly me. That works like that. So now it should work. Sorry about this. This is not the greatest demo, but let's go ahead and run. Hopefully this works now. JSON. Yes, 404. Okay, sorry about that, guys and girls. That was not my intent. I apologize for that. But now the show's on the road. So yes, I made a get request. I sent the application JSON, yada yada. That route does not exist, so it sent me a 404. So as you can see, everything is clearly working correct. So we tested this route and we tested this route. So now if, since there are no routes, it will always going to return a 404 no matter what we do. So even if we send something else, for example, of pizza, the all-time best food in the world, it'll still get 404. So no matter what, it just won't exist. So, but yeah, that's just a quick demo. On the next one, we'll continue building this out. But yeah, I just wanted to build something to a point where you guys can test it out and mess around with it. But yeah, that is it. Let me know what you think. Thanks.